I also remind our esteemed audience that during the course of the presentation, if you do have a question, suggestion, or comment, do kindly type it into the chat box, or you could as well wait during the question and answer section to ask your question verbally. Thank you once again. Prof, the floor is open now.
وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We start in the name of Almighty Allah, the most beneficent and the most merciful. And we ask him to send more peace and blessings on our leader, our role model, the messenger of Allah, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And may the same peace and blessings be extended to cover all members of his household, all of his companions, and whoever follows their footsteps until the day of resurrection. Ameen. My dear brothers and sisters, the audience of today's meeting, I say unto you all, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope I'm being heard clearly enough.
Yes, loud and clear, sir.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again for giving us this opportunity of meeting one another. I think for the second time during this year, 2021. And I want to also join the chairman of the Muslim community at Kenfad University of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, who has just spoken now, in appreciating the effort of the organizers of today's meeting, today's lecture, for thinking of such an important topic. It's an important topic that sometimes we may not pay our attention to. Most times we talk about issues relating to the fundamentals of our faith, and that is quite all right. That is our main capital in life. That is our main business. That is the sole essence of our existence. But at the same time, we must always remember that Al-Quran Al-Kareem gives us the guideline of how to live well in this life. Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Al-Quran Al-Kareem, وَابْتَغِ فِي مَا آتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Yes, seek with what Allah has bestowed on you of his favor. Seek the hereafter. Seek Al-Jannah. And that is the ultimate objective of any Muslim that understands the purpose of life and the purpose of living. But at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us, encourages us that we should never forget what is halal, what is legitimate, our own share of the goodness of this world. وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. So that is a Quranic directive to all Muslims. We must also look at our socio-economic interest as an individual, as individuals, as communities, as countries. We must, as the Muslim Ummah generally, we must also advert our minds to what concerns our welfare, what concerns our well-being. Especially these days that our opponents, let me put it that way, I mean adherents of other religion other than Islam, especially these days that it seems they have now come to the reality that one of the weapons that can be used against us as Muslims is the economic weapon. So we must also pay attention to this. We need to look after the welfare and the well-being of the Muslims so that they will remain firm on their faith. May Almighty Allah bless us all with steadfastness and firmness that will enable us to continue to be the true servants of Almighty Allah as we ought to be. Having said that, The topic we are to discuss today, like I said, borders on issues of economic interest, socio-economic interest. That Al-Quran al-Karim has clearly told us that we should never forget our share of the benefits of this world. And part of the benefits of this world, economic benefits, financial gains that are halal. Muslims must also seek their own portions, their own shares of this goodness provided by our Creator Almighty Allah. And that is why I very much appreciate the organizers for thinking of a topic like this. We want us to talk about, discuss the issue of trustworthiness and competence as major militating factors against poverty reduction in our communities, against enhancement of our welfare, collective welfare and well-being. And at the same time, the new dimension, as I mentioned a short while ago, it is also making us vulnerable to attack from others. A lot of Muslims are being lured into another religion, into another faith today, here in Nigeria and elsewhere, on account of what they will eat, on account of the job they are applying for, on account of the kind of employment that is available for people to. So, and the list continues, and we all know or hear about this. May Almighty Allah preserve us once again and our faith and our belief. I know the audience of today, if the organizer can just ask me, answer this question. Is it constituted mainly or exclusively of Nigerians in diaspora, or we have a mixture of those of us in Nigeria now and those of you that are still in diaspora? That the item that you skipped could have helped us answer this question. I would like to know the kind of audience I'm talking to, so that we can address issues affecting them directly. Can we have an answer to that?
Yes, Prof, I think we're having a mixed audience. Okay. Most probably from those in diaspora, but we still have audience from Nigeria.
Okay, but majority of today's audience are those of you in diaspora.
Yes, I believe so.
Oh,
in fact, Prof, maybe majority may even be from Nigeria, the way we see the statistics, maybe.
I can't hear you. Can you come again?
Maybe, sir, it may be safe to say 50-50, sir. It may be safe to say 50-50%.
Okay, that's good. That's good. But it's still okay that some of the issues that we are going to raise are well known to those of us that are presently residing in Nigeria. But those of you that are still outside, and we ask Almighty Allah to continue to be with you and to continue to guide you. And whenever you choose to come back home, may your homecoming be a pleasant one and the one that you shall never regret. Alhamdulillah, some of us have been there. Some of us have been in diaspora like you, and we choose to come home voluntarily. And alhamdulillah, we've never regretted that. And we pray that we never regret such an action that we've taken. I would like to say something that I think will be of interest, high interest to those of you in diaspora. I read, I think it was a news item this year, 2021, around March 2021, on one of our national dailies, quoting the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. He was addressing a gathering of diaspora, I believe, and he said that we thank you, Nigerians in diaspora, for what you have been able to do in the past years to aid and assist our economy as a nation. You may be surprised, but that may not be too far-fetched. That remittances by you,
Prof, sir.
Mm.
We also understand that some non-Christians, I mean, some Christians also joined. Also
Okay.
registered. We're not sure that they're joined now or not, but they registered as well.
No problem. We are not saying anything that cannot be hacked. So we are quite mindful of that we are on a platform that is accessible to all. As Nigerians, sometimes we need to tell ourselves the bitter truth. Using economic weapon against any adherent of any religion is something that must be discouraged. If that is the aspect you are referring to, I'm not, my intention is not to insult. I've never insulted any of my audience, but we are saying the truth. And if an economic weapon is being used against a group of people, it is incumbent on them to devise ways of resisting the attack. And the best way to resist the attack is to empower yourself to economically, so that you will not be always vulnerable. Are we still together?
Prof, Jazakallah khairan, sir. Thanks for the wisdom, sir.
Alhamdulillah. So as I was saying, the vice president of this country, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, senior advocate of Nigeria, actually recognized the important role being played by Nigerians in diaspora. Let me quote him, that the remittances from Nigerians in diaspora are even giving us more than what our revenue from oil is giving us. Can you believe that? That is the truth. That what you remit back home from all over the world as Nigerians in diaspora is actually providing to the economy of this nation more than what we generate from the oil revenue that we always believe is our #1 income earner. Not only that, in that same news report, the vice president said it clearly that remittances from abroad to Nigeria sometimes contribute as high as 6% of our GDP. That is not a small figure. 6% of our GDP annually comes from, or more than that, comes from remittances. But the flip side of this, as mentioned by the vice president too, and that is what I want to link with the topic of today. He now said that, unfortunately, it has also been discovered that your remittances back to Nigeria, 70% of those remittances go to family support, to support social needs of people, and not for economic benefits. They are never invested. Said it's only 30% of the remittances that are being invested back home in Nigeria. And that should be a source of concern to the government and to the people of this nation. And at the same time, even to those of you that are in diaspora. Why must 70% go to consumables, as we say it, something that will be eaten and we forget it, rather than putting it in ventures that will generate jobs, create jobs, generate incomes for a lot and a lot of our people. So that is the first point that I want to bring to your attention, that something needs to be done. Because what you want me to talk about today is how to create a synergy between those of us in Nigeria here who can work, who have the competence, and who can be trusted in making use of whatever you remit back home before you are finally back in Nigeria. That is the essence. You may have money, but you are not on ground. You need somebody that you can trust, and you need somebody that is competent on the job. But at the same time, I must remind you that enough is not being done in terms of what we tell to only 30% is being charged to investment, and just only 30%, while 70%, we are not saying don't help people meet their social needs, but it's always good, like the Chinese would say, teach me how to fish and do not give me fish to eat, to consume. It's always better to teach someone how to fish rather than providing readily available fish to them. They will eat that, forget it, and come back to you again tomorrow. And that is not what even our religion, Islam, encourages. Point number 2, by way of introduction 2. You talked about the level of poverty in Nigeria is actually very high. Is actually very high. And the statistics I have, I used one back in, I think it was in April or March, that I delivered a lecture organized by Bayero University, Kano, in an international conference on how to use Waqf or endowment for the reduction of poverty rate in Nigeria. I had to look into some statistics of 2020. What I discovered is this, as simple as this. When you look at the political zones in Nigeria, the poverty rate in the North Central is 42.70%. In the Northeast Nigeria, it is as high as 71.86%. More than 71 people are living in abject poverty. In the Northwest, the figure was given as 64.84, quite high as a rate of poverty. In the Southeast, 42.44. That may be on the average manageable. In the South-South, 21.28, commendable, but it's not even good enough at this age, this century, to be talking of more than 21% poverty rate in any geopolitical zone of any region. And the list that we had then, and I think the figure will look similar if we were to take a look at it again today. This, as I told you, was the list of 2020, the figure given in 2020. In the Southwest, we have just 12.12% poverty rate. The summary of this all is that in this nation, Nigeria, we have a very high, relatively very high poverty rate. And that is a pointer to the fact that to discuss an issue like this, creating synergy between those of you that have money to remit back home, but you don't want just to throw your investment, your savings of years into anywhere. You want to be sure that whatever you put in generates something for you and for whoever is investing or making use of that fund. But let us remind ourselves again, the attitude of Nigerians in diaspora must actually also change, because according to the Vice President, you are still using 70% to support social needs, while it is just 30% that you are channeling to the economic development of our people and of our country, and that is not good enough. I told you this is not even what Sharia, what Islam recognizes. I've told you about the adage from Chinese. In Islam, it is recorded as part of our history that when the companions of the Prophet ﷺ migrated from Mecca to Medina, those who traveled, the immigrants, Muhajirun from Mecca, they left everything behind. Some of them were very rich in Mecca, but because of the persecution of the enemies, suddenly they became poor. Now, one of them was Abdurrahman ibn Auf radiyallahu ta'ala, a very famous companion of the Prophet ﷺ. It is recorded that his neighbor, the Prophet ﷺ, arranged them in such a way that he attached every Muhajiri to a Ansar, a Medina citizen, so to say, so as to help the new a guest coming from Mecca by way of migration. But it is recorded that Abdurrahman bin Auf actually told his own neighbor that instead of sharing with me your meal, instead of sharing with me whatever you have, you don't have much, you still have to share it with me. Why can't you just show me the way to the Medina market? Duluni ila suq. Tell me, what do you buy? What do you sell here in Medina that I can also engage in? And that is how Abdurrahman bin Auf subsequently became one of the wealthiest, one of the richest companions of the Prophet ﷺ. What he simply did is what I told you: don't give me fish to eat, but teach me how to fish. So please, I'm drawing your attention to that one because I see it as very, very important. But I will also address your concern, and this is why we are here this morning. I know your concern. Yes, we cannot put in 70% of our remittances in investment because people are not trustworthy, because people are not competent. Yes, you are very correct. In most cases, you are very correct. And this is why we are here today, to look at what we can do to address these challenges. Like I told you, I was once a Nigerian in diaspora like you people. And I tried while I was abroad, I tried to lay my hands on some things, sending money back home for people to do. The challenge has always been this two, really. Is either you find competent people who are not trustworthy, or you found trustworthy people but are incompetent. And these two qualities, subhanallah al-azim, as mentioned in the verse of Al-Quran al-Kareem, they are necessary and they must exist together. It's not enough for you to be competent and not trustworthy. We don't benefit from your competence that way. In fact, you may harm us the way many people are harming us as a nation today. They are competent, but you cannot trust them. Corruption is all over the places. At the same time, if you are trustworthy, the most trustworthy person in the world, in the country, will be of no benefit to us economically if he or she is incompetent on any job that we ask him to take up. In Al-Quran al-Kareem, in Surah Al-Qasas, in Surah Al-Qasas, verse number 26 precisely. Let me recite the verse for you. And what some of those of you that may have a copy of Al-Quran very close to you, you can open that chapter now, because that is going to be the focal point today of our discussion, to analyze and to discuss this particular verse of Al-Quran al-Kareem. قالت إحداهما يا أبت استأجره إن خير من استأجرت القوي الأمين إن خير من استأجرت القوي الأمين. Once again, Surah Al-Qasas, verse number 26, is about an historical record of what happened to Prophet Musa alayhi salatu wassalam when he was traveling, and in a long story, he met two ladies who are rearing cattle for their parents. And being ladies, being females, they are always at a disadvantaged position. They cannot do what men will use their strength and force to do. So they always wait until others have fed their animals, their cattle, whatever. They always benefit from the leftover. And this is not good enough for their animals, for their cattle. Until that day when Musa came in contact with them and he asked them, what is your problem? They explained to him, and he assisted them in getting adequate water for their cattle for the first time before any other person. So they didn't have to wait for the leftover that day. So they went back home and narrated what happened to their father, and the father invited Musa to their house. It's a long story. I'm just trying to give you an abridged version of it. On getting to that house, one of those two ladies advised their father that from what this man has done for us today, and from what we have been suffering from as females, and we don't have a male child, why can't you employ, that is the word, ista'jirhu. Qalat ihdahuma ya abati ista'jirhu. Oh father, employ this man. This is all what we are looking for. Those of you that have money, either in diaspora or here in Nigeria, people have money too that they are looking for ways of investing each. Whom do you entrust with your investment? Whom do you employ when you have any venture, any business venture? This lady advised her father by saying, employ this man. إن خير من استأجرت القوي الأمين. Because this man has the qualities of the best man ever that can be employed. And what are those qualities? Al-Qawiyu Al-Amin, the same as the topic of today. Competence and trustworthiness. That is all Musa had, and that is all that lady used to assess his suitability for the job. إن خير من استأجرت القوي الأمين. Competent, strong enough to carry out the job, the activity, the exercise. He has what it takes, any strength, any form of competence. At the same time, you can trust this man, whichever you put under his custody. So these are the two qualities that you have even been told in Al-Quran Al-Karim we must look out for when we want to engage people, to take after our wealth, to invest our money. We want to put savings of years under their care, under their custody. We need to look for those two qualities: competence and trustworthiness. And the issue here is, as I said a short while ago, you know, sometimes if you are looking for two things, and you get one, you may say, okay, I've gotten 50% of 100%. Maybe let me try it. It doesn't work that way in business. You must look for somebody that will have both. If it's competent and not trustworthy, it's not a good man to be employed or a good woman to be employed. If it's trustworthy, but it's not competent on the job, his or her trustworthiness will never assist you or him or her. So they have to go together. I always draw a similarity here between these two qualities that must coexist in whoever is being engaged to make use of money, to invest money, to work for us in an investment, with two conditions laid down by Almighty Allah for us as Muslims, for any act of ibadah or worship to be acceptable to him. He laid down two clear conditions. That for anything that you do to serve me as your God, it must fulfill these two conditions. What are those conditions? Well known to majority of you. Al-ikhlasu wal-mutaba'ah. The sincerity, you must do ibadah, act of worship solely, only, exclusively for Almighty Allah, not for any other intention. That is one condition. But the second condition is al-mutaba'ah, that you must do it in accordance with what the Prophet ﷺ did and taught us to do, because it's the only way, that is our only gateway to knowing what pleases Almighty Allah. We don't have any other source. Now, what I'm saying is that you have to take, that one will give you an insight to what we are talking of. Just as any act of ibadah is not acceptable if one of the two conditions is met, is fulfilled, and the other is not fulfilled. When you have good intention in an ibadah, just like so many people will claim today that, oh, our intention is very good. And this is Rabi al-Thani, the month of Mawlid of the Prophet ﷺ, that a lot of people will claim we are celebrating because we love him. We have good intention. But the danger is that condition only doesn't suffice. That is the rule of Almighty Allah. The other two must also complement it. Then ask yourself whether the Prophet ﷺ himself did or directed us to do what you are doing. If he did not, then there's no way you can do it and claim that one to be a way of pleasing Almighty Allah. So the same way trustworthiness and competence must coexist in whomever we want to engage. And that is very necessary. That is why this lady advised her parents by saying, employ Musa, engage him in your business activity, because I saw in him the two qualities. He's competent, strong enough, and is also trustworthy. So it means we are not missing the point. The organizers of today's event, today's meeting, they are actually on the point by identifying these two factors as militating factors against reduction of poverty and facilitating the welfare and well-being of our people, whether in the diaspora or even at home in Nigeria. If these two are missing in any society, they will have problem economically. They will have a lot of problem. Those who have money will then keep the money to themselves, not benefiting from it by way of investing it, multiplying it. They won't be able to do that. And those who are in poverty will continue to languish in poverty. Why don't we then come together and find a common ground to assist one another? We need their money. They need our expertise. We need their investment. They also need our trustworthiness. They cannot just throw their money anywhere. It's not easy. If some of you, I think some of you speak Yoruba, you know, in the Yoruba land, they have an adage that says, it's difficult for you to remove money from the owner. It's like mustache. It's difficult for you to just pluck it. So it's not an easy thing to ask somebody, bring your money, unless he sees these two qualities in you: trustworthiness, al-amana, wal-quwwa, competence. Inna khayra man ista'jarta al-qawiyyul amin. So we are on the point by choosing to discuss ways of solving these this very big problem. Is a very big problem that we are facing, and many communities in the world. But I think we as Nigerians, we are really suffering from this problem. Now, jurists, Muslim jurists, they have a principle that says al-hukmu ala shay'i far'un an tasawwuri. Adjudication of any matter must be an offshoot of its perception, of its understanding. Now, we must, I think at this level now, having quoted from Al-Qur'an al-Karim, having give you life experiences, even I went as far as giving you an adage from China. I think we will all agree that trustworthiness and competence are essential elements for success in business and all other economic activities. For those who have money and for those who will work with the money, use the money by way of investment. Now, what do we mean by competence? That is the next question, because we need to understand, like I said, al-ulama, the scholars, the Muslim things will say, adjudication of a matter must be an offshoot of its perception. I'm afraid some people still do not understand what we are talking of when we are saying you are incompetent. Some people will claim I'm a graduate. I'm a graduate of so universities, but people will still point at him or her that you are incompetent. You cannot do this job. Oh, I have so class of degree, first class degree, 2-1, 2-2, and the rest of them. What actually is competence? We need to know that so that we can work towards achieving it. Competence, I actually, last night, when I was preparing for this lecture, I said, let me look at some dictionaries. Even the dictionary meaning may assist us. We don't need to go too far. And I found one of the most famous dictionaries around, I think, maybe Collins, or I can't remember now, but I checked one of the dictionaries in defining what is competence. Look at what I got. Competence is the quality of having requisite knowledge, skill, judgment, or strength for a particular job. As simple as that. This is what competence means. Competence does not start or end with your paper qualifications. You may have paper qualifications and yet you are incompetent. It's very, very sad to note that. We have one of the highest rates of unemployment in the world. That is undoubtable. We cannot deny that fact. Nigeria has one of the highest rates of unemployment in the world. But at the same time, you look at the real problem. A lot of those unemployed youth roaming about our streets are actually not employable. They are not employable in the first place. Even if there are opportunities, they cannot fit into those opportunities. Why? In most cases, because they lack competence in the real sense of it. To have quality of having knowledge, skill, judgment, or strength. Again, all of this must go together. If you have knowledge without skill, what do we benefit from your knowledge? If you have skill, knowledge, you don't have sound judgment when you are faced with a challenge in your duty line. How do you solve such a problem? You need to look for who will come to assist you all the time. Then you are not competent. Then you need strength. Sometimes you need even physical strength to do some forms of work. So all of this also must also coexist. This is one of the most comprehensive definitions of competence that I've ever seen. And that is why I chose to use it this morning. Again, it's the quality of having requisite knowledge, skill, judgment, or even strength for any given job. It may vary from one job to another. What job A requires may be different from what job B requires. So it varies. In the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is an Islamic gathering. In the first place, we must buttress, we must support whatever view we advance with authorities of Sharia. Let's go to hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam now. Narrated by the mother of our mother, the mother of the faithful, al-Mu'mineen, Aisha radiyallahu anha, wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah please be pleased with her and all other wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and indeed all companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She said, quoting her husband, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Inna Allah yuhibbu idha amila ahadukum amala an yutqinahu." Hadithun sahih is an authentic hadith, certified by even Al-Imam Al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala as being an authentic hadith. What's the meaning? Allah loves to see any of you doing any job, doing any work, performing any duty, and you to perfect it, at least to bring it to the possible, humanly possible level of perfection. That is what it means. That means if you do anything, we want to see that you are competent in so doing. We don't need something that will be substandard. People do not want to take substandards anymore in this world, in the competitive world. The world that we are all living in today is very, very competitive. There are a lot of people outside. If you are not competent, they will abandon you, go to whoever is competent. And this is the secret. Let me be frank with you. This is the secret. Apologies to members of the audience who may not be Muslims, but I've promised that I will always say the truth. I will be factual into this lecture, as I've always tried to be in all of my presentations. In Nigeria today, why is it that the economic power is not of Muslims? Even sometimes when you find Muslims, billionaires, Muslim billionaires, go and find out what I'm going to tell you. Those who have money to invest, they have investment, they have companies. Go and look at those who are in charge. He has the money, but who is managing the money for him or her? In most cases, they look for competence. They don't look for religion. That's the truth. You cannot go to Dangote of this world and others, or Rabi of this world, or any other wealthy individual, and appeal to his sentiment that, oh, you must engage me because I'm a Muslim, even though I'm incompetent. Nobody will listen to you. So that is also food for thought for us. We need to work on the competence of our people. We need to work on the competence of our people. We are in a very competitive environment, very competitive world we are all living in. I said from the definition of competence that we had, it may require more than having a university degree. It's unfortunate that in this part of the world, that is part of our problems. We believe so much in paper qualifications, so much, and that is harming us as a nation. People like Bill Gates of this world, they don't have a university degree. And who will doubt it that Bill Gates is a successful businessman? That's it. What's the name? The Tesla company's owner has only first degree. So a lot of people, they don't, it's not when you become a professor in economics that you will be the wealthiest people, wealthiest person. So I'm not discouraging people from pursuing academic degrees. After all, I'm talking to you today as a professor of law, so don't get me wrong. But I'm advising us that we have to de-emphasize our every attention is being put on academic qualification. Some people may not fit. Not all of us will become lecturers. Why are you going for master's and PhD degrees? I always wonder. What will make you pursue? Thank you, Elon Musk. Somebody has written it, so I forgot his name. So as I was saying, for example, I teach in a university. I know some of my students, those who come for higher degrees, masters and PhD, they don't need them. You are not in the academia. You are not a lecturer. Why must you go for a master's degree? Why pursuing a PhD degree? But unfortunately, that is where we are today. And people believe that, oh, if he gets this, he will get promoted in his job. He will just to have more salary. And that is not how to make wealth. That is not how to promote economic development of any nation. So let's come back to the issue of competence now. So competence may require more than having a university degree. Now, I once listened to a professor of education. I benefited something from his presentation that I'm going to use now. He was talking about the effect of COVID-19 on teaching and learning in Nigeria and elsewhere. COVID-19 has actually taught us so many lessons. What I'm doing here today is part of the benefit, whether you like it or not, of COVID-19 pandemic. The widespread usage of Zoom and other virtual platforms is one of the benefits of COVID-19 pandemic. May Almighty Allah save us and preserve us and our families. So he mentions ways of making sure that you are always competent on the job. Because you know the danger is competence is not something that you have today, then you lose it tomorrow. If you lose it tomorrow, you are incompetent. Some people were competent when they graduated from universities. They were very good academically, they were sound, but they refused to develop themselves and they become incompetent. So as I always put it, once competent, you must always remain competent. Otherwise, you will be left behind. You will be left behind in this very competitive world. So if you want to be competent, you must continuously be competent. How do you achieve that? 4 ways or 4 ways. 1, through reskilling. I will explain all this. Upskilling, multi-skilling, and cross-skilling. Again, you always need to reskill, to upskill, to multi-skill, and even to cross-skill. What do we mean by all this? This is what gives you continuous competence. Once competent, you must always remain competent. Otherwise, you become irrelevant in this very competitive world. Reskilling simply means you are on a particular job. You must look for ways, new ways of doing that job. New ways, learn new ways, different ways of doing your job that you are currently on. Or doing that particular job in a different way. That can only be achieved when you choose to reskill yourself. You don't just rely on what you have acquired while in the university or in the polytechnics or wherever. You must always reskill yourself so that what you did this year, next year will be different. The output will be different, will have a higher quality. Why? Because you have reskilled. It's either the same job being done differently, or you have a different way of doing the same. You just have to reskill, upgrade yourself. So that is one secret to having continuous competence, reskilling. The next one, upskilling. Upskilling. You need to upskill yourself to remain competent. It's very funny that when some people, some young ones are confronted with a challenge on the job, the reaction is that, we didn't learn this in school. Why must we learn everything in school? Nobody learned all things in school. All of us, we didn't learn what I'm doing here today, I didn't learn it while I was in the university. But you have to keep up yourself, just continue to upskill. Learn new things, new ways of tackling, of addressing, emerging, and new challenges that were never in place when you are being trained in school. You can only achieve that through the process of upskilling. Try to upskill. Don't remain where you are and be confronted with a problem. Your reaction will be, they didn't teach us in school. This area is new. We didn't learn this while we are in school. Nobody learns everything in school. Nobody. So that is the second secret to continuing to be competence always. The third one is multi-skilling. Yes, in this world, in this very competitive world, you must be multi-skilling all the time. Learn how to do different things. Learn how to do many things. Yes, let me give you an example, because this is what the employers of labor, this is what they are looking for today. There are no sentiment, no emotion. They want what will give them value for their money. Now, let me put it this way. You know, in those days, when you get to any office, you will find someone identified as the secretary. Then sitting next to him or her, another person identified as the typist. So to have a secretariat, even as small as it may be, in those days, you need a secretary. And beside him or her, you need a typist. Now, let me ask you a question. If you advertise for the job of a secretary, then among the applicants, you find someone that is equally good in typewriting. Then one is not only knows secretarial works, but even to type a word, you will have to engage a typist. Whom will you employ? That is it. You need value for your money. Every sensible man or woman will go for that man with multi-skills. Oh, so you are also good even in typing, and you are good, you have experience in secretarial works. Oh, this is what I'm looking for. So this is what we are talking of. Youth of today, please learn to be a multi-skilled individual. Yes, this is what you are trained for. Look at what will further enhance your quality as an expert in your area. Even language, if you are fortunate enough to have acquired a foreign language, that's a big asset. Some people will tell you that they've got an opportunity, not because of their qualification. A lot of people are qualified like you, But for example, if you go to a Chinese construction company in Nigeria now, they are all over Nigeria now, and you are a civil engineer, this one is civil engineer, you all have good certificate, good paper qualifications, but this one said, I graduated from China, I can speak Chinese language. They will go for it. They will go for that one. So, because that's a way of multi-skilling. So even you have an advantage. Those of you that are over there now in Saudi Arabia, please make sure your children learn Arabic language. When I was over there, I resisted the temptation of sending my children to British school, not for any other one. How will I be in an Arabic-speaking country and still be sending my children to English-speaking countries? What will be the benefit? I'd rather send them back home to Nigeria to learn. So it's an opportunity for you over there now, spending years and coming back to Nigeria. Make sure your children, if you are not able to catch that, you are not able to achieve that, your children, they are very good at picking up languages. It's very easy for children. So even language, foreign language is an asset, is a big asset. Any foreign language, be it French, in addition to our English that we all know, French, Arabic, Chinese, any language, Portuguese, you may not know when they will look for you that, oh, so you are a civil engineer, oh, so you are a professor of so, you are, but you also have language. It's you we are looking for. So that can only come by way of being a multi-skilled individual, just like a secretary and a typist combined together in one individual. The last one is cross-skilling. It's a good idea to even cross-skill. That is, you move away from your domain, your specialization. You look at something else that will be an added value, that people will, someone look for that one, that, oh, so this man is so, and yet he is that. They will look for you. So cross-skilling is also very, very important. If you are able to become what we call an all-rounder, why not? Become an all-rounder. Oh, he's good at this, he's good at that, he's good at this, he's good at that. It's very good. It helps a lot. It helps a lot. It will help you as an individual, and it will have benefits to the community and the society as a whole. So I think with this, we have said enough. We have said enough about the issue of competence. In khayra man ista'jarta al-qawiyyul amin. The best person you can employ, you can engage, is someone that is competent and at the same time trustworthy. Now let's move to the trustworthiness. It's also very, very important. What do you mean by being trustworthy? We don't need a dictionary to define that. It's very simple. Don't steal people's money. Don't cheat others. Don't betray them when they entrust you. Always speak the truth. Be truthful. Don't be a liar. This is what we call trustworthiness. Let people know you, that if you say yes, it is actually yes. If you say no, it is actually no. Unfortunately, we are suffering seriously from these ailments, from this disease of deceit, betrayal, lie has become ways of life for many Nigerians today, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I don't know where we got it wrong, that people so much believe that if you are truthful, you cannot succeed in life. You must find ways of cheating. You must find ways of stealing. When did that start? Let me ask you. It all started 30, 40 years, 30, 20 years ago, even in this country. As young as I am, I can point at people, the older generations that are successful in life, and they are very truthful, very truthful. I used to mention that I listened to the late Damasan in Kano, Alaji, who will remind me the name? Alaji Maitama Sule. I once listened to him in an interview. when he mentioned that, he was asked, what is the difference between you, the older generation, the First Republic politicians, and the today politicians? He said, simple. Because the society in which we lived, we grew up in the society that clearly draws a line between what is legitimate and what is illegitimate as your resources. Yes, they want to see that line clearly drawn. If you are a billionaire, they want to know whether your billions are halal or haram. If they are haram, they are meaningless to them. They are meaningless to them. Then if you have just 1,000 and your 1,000 is halal, they hail you, they praise you, they invite you to their gatherings, they celebrate you, they appreciate you. So that was the society in which we lived, which we grew up in. He even made mention some examples that when he was growing up, the society would identify some people as having dubious, illicit funds, and using those funds to send their school to children, buy bicycles for them when other children are walking to school. Their own children will be riding on bicycles. Then he said, in those days, our parents will call our attention, will say, look, the son of so, do you know him? Yes, I know him. His son attends the same school with you? Yes. Look, if we ask you to come and ride on his bicycle, don't do it, because that bicycle was bought by haram money. Allahu Akbar. Yeah. Alhaji Maitama Sule rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him, said it. But that is how we grew up. This is what is missing today in Nigeria. People don't bother about your source of money again. Whether it's Yahoo or whatever, you steal, you kill, you betray, you cheat, just to have money. But as Muslims, we must always remember that we are accountable for every single kobo, every single penny, every single naira, every single riyal, every single dollar that you accumulate in this world. You are going to account for it on the day of resurrection. Yes, the Prophet ﷺ said it, that if you cheat someone in this life, let's say you illegally took away from him just as little as 1,000 naira. On the day of resurrection, he will ask you, what will you pay? No money again, no naira, no dollar. They will take from your salat, from your fasting, from your hajj to recompensate you. The Prophet ﷺ unfortunately said in that hadith, some people with very huge amount of ibadah will end up in hellfire, because those ibadah, those worship, were taken to pay for their injustices, for their betrayers. So please, let us be mindful of this. Be trustworthy. Whatever comes to you, it is halal that must be meaningful to you, no matter how small. No matter how small, you will find the benefit of that in your children. But if you use haram money to build houses, to do this, to do that, they don't last. And if they do, you will regret it on the day of resurrection. So what is the benefit? No. So being trustworthy is very, very important. Very, very important, especially in the context of what we are discussing. Those who have money and want to invest it, they need who will be trustworthy. Yes, they need who will be trustworthy. This is not peculiar to us as Muslims. So we Muslims, we must bear in mind the fact that we are accountable for anything on the day of resurrection. The Prophet ﷺ said it in a hadith. Nobody will escape being questioned of the source of his wealth and how he or she spent that wealth while alive. You cannot escape those questions on the day of Qiyamah. You will be asked, and malihi, kayfa iktasabahu wa fima anfaqahu. That is how the Prophet ﷺ put it. You'll be asked of the source of your income, source of your money. And at the same time, how did you spend that money? Spend it in haram ways or in halal ways? Might Allah continue to show us the right path and give us the courage to follow sin. We are still on trustworthiness. Now, let me give you practical examples from the Sharia, from the Islamic perspective, what you should not do as an employee, as an entrepreneur, as a manager of business or whatever, that you have something that is under your care that doesn't belong to you in particular. Doesn't belong to you, may belong to an individual, may belong to a nation. What is ruining us as a nation? What is drawing us back development-wise as a nation? It's not because we lack competence in most cases, it's because we lack trustworthiness. People are not trustworthy, even when they have the collective, the commonwealth of the whole nation under their care. This is the problem. So what you must not do, one, from the verses of Al-Quran al-Karim and from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, at-tatfif, Allah says clearly in Al-Quran al-Karim, wailun lil-mutaffifin, alladhina idha iktalu ala an-nasi yastawfun, wa idha kaluhum aw wazanuhum yuksirun. Those who give less in measure or weight, Allah says, woe unto them. Punishment is expecting them. Severe punishment for that matter. Why? Because as described by these verses of Al-Quran, when they are to demand for their right from people, they get those rights in full scale, in full measure. But when it is time for them to now give others their due rights, they try to circumvent. They try to give less. Woe unto them. So please assess yourself. This is part of the test for your trustworthiness. Are you giving up to the measure agreed upon? Are you giving up to the measure agreed upon? Look at what is happening in the construction company in Nigeria today. The truth of the matter is that people are not giving up to the measure. You say, this is the standard I'm going to build, I'm going to do. But by the time they are not there, those who paid, those who want to buy, instead of using certain forms of cement. Are we still together?
Yes.
Yes,
together, sir.
Somebody is talking. How many minutes do we have left? Mr. Moderator.
So for your section, it's supposed to have ended, but we're enjoying this part. Maybe after this part, inshallah, we'll go to another session. Inshallah.
No, but I also have another program. I told you. Okay, let's try to summarize. So the point I'm making is that tatfif is a no-go area for you. If you want to be trustworthy, you must always give up to the measure, up to the weight, up to the agreement. We agree that this is going to be used even when the owner is not there. You mustn't reduce it. The cement, the formwork, the iron, whatever you use in construction. That's just an example of what we are facing in the country today. So tatfif is a no-go area by the virtue of this verse of Al-Quran al-Karim. Not only that, even if somebody employs you that you assume duty at 7:30 a.m. and you close by 3:30 a.m., assuming duty by 8, 9, then closing by 2:30 before the agreed upon time is a form of tatfif. Wailun lil-mutaffifin. You must give up to the agreed upon standard, weight, and measure in everything that you do. That is the first test for your being trustworthy. The other one, found in an authentic hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as documented by Al-Imam Muslim, a case of one of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abdullah ibn Lutbiyah, who was sent by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to go and collect zakat for the Muslim states, collect zakat of people who have obligation to pay zakat. Then he went to different villages, cities, and came back with a lot of goods and assets. Then he separated some, saying that, oh, this is a gift for me, and this is what I got from them as zakat. But these ones are gifts. And the Prophet ﷺ said, why must they give you a gift when we send you on a mission, on an official mission? Some people do not know that when you are on an official line of duty, you don't deserve a gift. You don't deserve any hidden present or gift or prize or whatever. You are employed to work here, and we have agreed on your pay. Whether it is 100,000 or less or more monthly, you are not entitled to any gift from any customer. Go and know that. A medical practitioner, that his duty is to refer people to laboratory for tests. You are not entitled to any commission. You are on the line, you're on an official line of duty, and you are being paid for just doing that. So this is one of the areas of looking at your trustworthiness. There should be no way of hiding something behind whoever employs you. At most, if some of the customers, some of the clients of whatever you are doing want to appreciate you voluntarily, but you need the consent of your employer, because he has paid you for what you are doing. He has paid you for what you are doing. So, so that is, and the last one, I'm giving you tests of trustworthiness. Al-Gish, no cheating, no deceit. If you say this is so, it must be so. Like the one I gave you example in construction company and others. A lot of people today are deceiving people. They will show you something on the screen, especially these days that people are buying on. They will show you a particular shoe, a particular dress. By the time they send to you what you paid for, you find it being something different. It's haram. It's part of not being trustworthy. So I think we just have to round off now, but by way of concluding, you said in the abstract, the moderator, that how can scholars contribute to bringing about trustworthiness and competence? I think what I'm doing now, scholars cannot do more than that. We can only talk, we can only advise people, we can only encourage them, we can only tell them this is the punishment that awaits you if you do otherwise. But I want to put it to you as a challenge too. Those of you in the diaspora, or those of you in Nigeria that have the wherewithal, you can also be of assistance to our people in building competence and even in encouraging them to be trustworthy. That is how I want to conclude today's lecture. Come back home, collaborate with people, find ways of building human capital development of our youth. Like I told you, a lot of them will say they have no job. The truth of the matter is that they are not employable, no skills, sometimes no knowledge, no sound judgment when they are faced with difficulties and challenges. So I think you can also contribute to that. We need to build up the human capital development of our youth mainly. Build their competence so that they will be fit. At the end of it all, you will also benefit from this competence. As they will say, you can sleep with your two eyes closed. Oh, I have a competent person on job. Train them, then give them job. Then also on how can you contribute to building trustworthiness? You have a duty, you have a role too. How many of you, those of you that have investment back home in Nigeria, how many of you ever thought of having spiritual enhancement of your employees? You take them to course A, you take them to course B, you took them to workshop B, workshop C, workshop D, just to enhance their competence all the time. You are neglecting their spiritual upliftment, enhancement. That is what will bring about trustworthiness. Look for scholars, competent ones, trustworthy ones to come and talk to them. Look for workshop where they build moral aspect of your employees. That is part of, you spend a little amount of money in achieving that, but the end result will be far, far better for you. And the society as a whole, I believe, will be better off if we are all competent and we are all trustworthy. May Almighty Allah make all that easy and possible for all of us. Wa sallallahu wa sallim wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.
Thank you very much, Professor, for such an enlightening and insightful delivery. It really, I'm sure a lot of people have questions. But before we go to the Q&A section, we have something on the agenda, which is a panel session. Thereafter, we'll come back to the question and answer section. So next we'll move to the panel session, which will be moderated, will be handled by Dr. Saeed Adekunle and Dr. Alhaji Alhaji. So Dr. Saeed. Dr. Saeed, are you there?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So I'm here.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Can you please start from Dr. Muhammad Al-Haji? Please, I just need to conclude something and join.
Okay. Dr. Muhammad, I think he...
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi. Please go ahead.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. I would like to first thank the leader of the Nigerian community in Saudi Arabia, Dr. Adam Olatunji, and also the organizing committee of this very occasion for putting this platform to share our experience and information. I would like to also thank Professor ABDULRAZZAQ for Professor ALARO for giving us this very important and vital information, quoting from the Quran and hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ. Very informative talk. Inshallah, we shall use it for our businesses and so on. And inshallah, we have learned, we will learn from what he has said. So the topic actually is very important: trustworthiness and competence. And in one way or the other, most of us here in Saudi Arabia, we have got into businesses and small-scale businesses, joint businesses, and so on. And we have learned a lot of lessons, actually. One of the major issues that when you decide to invest in Nigeria back home is the issue of how you get someone to run this business for you, how someone will help you to run while you are not around. Even so, at times, it's very difficult even for you to monitor what is going on with your business, because it's very, some type of, it depends on the type of business. Some type of businesses are easy to run if you have something that you can be able to count. For example, you have a mobile shop company that you actually send 1,000 mobile phones, and you know the number and you know what it costs. So these kind of businesses are really very, very easy to monitor from afar. But there are some type of, like prohibitions, for example, it's very difficult to monitor, because even the person that you entrust to sell this product for you can be able to even buy his own consignment and sell it in your shop. So the issue is really very, very important, and it's a present issue for most expatriates that are staying outside of Nigeria, because one of the major reasons why we leave Nigeria outside, it's not that outside is better than Nigeria. It's not that outside is none. Actually, most of the people that, most of us outside, we are not enjoying like the outside and so on, but we are actually forced by the situation in Nigeria, economic situation, greener pastures and so on, to come and look for greener pasture and save something and back home, go back home and also contribute our quota. So within this short period that we stay outside, we want to see that we save as much as possible, so that when we go back home, there will be no any problem, and we cannot regret our being outside the country. So that is why always each and every one of us is looking for how we can be able to maximize our living here, how we can be able to save money, and how we can be able to actually prepare the ground for our return at the end of the day when the time comes. So that is why most of us will engage in businesses at home, will engage in how to actually save what we have at home. But most of the brothers that are here, most of the brothers actually have engaged in this kind of businesses, and they have actually a lot of experiences. And the positive experiences actually are less compared to the negative experiences. Okay, I have 2 minutes. Okay, I will try and round up. So in these 2 minutes, I will give you my experience with a cow pits business, which is a fodder that we use to buy when it is the end of the rainy season, after the harvest. And after storing it for maybe 5 months or 6 months, then it will actually be profitable and one will sell. But I got into this kind of business, and I bought a lot of this fodder cow pits, and I got a storage and I kept it, and I paid someone to look after it. And after 6 months, I bring out this fodder to sell. But to my surprise, actually, I did not do a very good feasibility analysis. It turned out that it is even very difficult to sell. It's not as if it's just you just buy, kept it, and you just bring out and people will quickly come and buy it. No, there are more to it actually. There are so many things. So that is why at the end of the day, when I bought the fodder far back at 600 naira, but I sold it for 800 naira, which is, if I subtract the cost of my storage and paying security and so on, maybe the profit that comes out of it is very little, or maybe there's no profits. So this is all because of the shallow nature of the feasibility studies. So that's why, based on such experience, I will advise brothers that we need to do a thorough feasibility study whenever we are embarking on any kind of business. And we need to look for commodities that we can be able to easily account for. We can be able to easily monitor, actually, before we go. There are some things that whatever you do is very difficult to monitor. So that's why we should avoid such kind of businesses, and we go for those that we can monitor for the meantime until we go back and we are on ground. Let's start with less always. Don't put a lot of money on a business that you did not test. If you have an intention to invest more, just invest quarter of what you have intention in. Study it, then you invest. We need to actually do whatever we can to close all loopholes, because sometimes just because we have, this is my uncle, I know that he will do it very well, this is my brother, no, you cannot. Actually, you have to do your homework. You have to close all loopholes. Don't mind this is your uncle, this is your brother, this is your sister. No, these people also look for money. I have 0 minutes. Okay, I will actually round up now. Okay, so do what we need to close. We need to devise a thorough means of monitoring mechanism. We should not work on assumptions. Always let's get the clear facts, and we should communicate with individuals who are involved in similar businesses on the ground. So I think I will stop here. My time is off. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I will now stop here. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Dr. Saeed?
Thank you, the moderator. But I think we should go to Q&A before the prof will leave. Then I can come back to my session, please.
Okay, that is fine. So anyone with a question, probably I'll first read the ones we have in the chat box. Then I will call on individuals who have questions to raise their hands, and then we'll call on them to make their questions, ask their questions verbally. So the first question I have from Mr. Ismail. My apologies if I do not get your titles correctly, as I'm only going to pronounce your names as I see it on the Zoom platform. So Mr. Ismail asked, can I be fully employed somewhere and still run a personal business out of my savings? That's the first question to Prof.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm not sure Prof is around.
I think he's still connected, but his mic is muted.
I'm still around. Salaam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi. So, Prof, do I need to repeat the first question?
Yes, I didn't hear. What was the first question?
The first question is that, can I fully be employed somewhere and still run a personal business out of my savings?
Okay.
That's the first question. Do you want me to read the questions?
Yes, let's take all the questions once and for all.
Okay, then the second question is, if I don't have options, but to pick from the two, which will you advise to pick and why? Okay, I guess, or should I just keep my money? I guess this is a follow-up question. Like even if you're employed and you have your savings, can you run a personal business out of your savings? And if you don't have an option, which would you advise one to pick in order not to be on the wrong side?
Pick one of which options, either to invest or not.
Still employed or to run your personal business.
Or to quit your job and go to your personal business.
Yes, I suppose.
I think the questions are from two different people.
Okay.
Okay, but then I think the first person's question did not come up. The first part of the second question did not come up because I can only see if I don't have an option. Oh, Mr. Ahmed Adeniran. Dr. Adeniran. If you could verbally just ask the question. Oh, between competence and what?
Okay, and trustworthiness.
Okay. Oh, okay. So he's asking if he doesn't have an option, but to pick from being either competent or trustworthiness, which one would you advise him to go for?
Okay.
Okay, then I think I have individuals raising their hand. Ashraf Bello, could you unmute and ask your question?
First observation, sir. I think this kind of program, we need to have it public lectures too, because the two people are here listening. There are a lot of people that needed this thing much more than us. May all matter with us. Number two, sir, and the question goes to us, on the issue of multi-skilling. I'm somehow confused with this issue statement that says, "Jack of all, trade of master of all," or so. If someone should learn or know all many things like that, can someone, or don't we think someone can maybe lose some of the thing if you are involved in multi-skill? Number three, and having collecting gifts, especially we are medical personnel. So after I attended to the patient and the patient is satisfied with the treatment, can such a person, medical personnel, collect it from such a person? Is part of it?
Collect what?
Collect gifts if the patient intends to give out gifts that is satisfied with treatment.
Voluntarily giving.
Yes, sir. Voluntarily giving, sir.
Okay.
Zakaria Jamiu.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Thank you, the organizers, the audience, and the lecturer. I think somebody has asked my question, but perhaps I will just rephrase it. The question is about where can we afford compromise in a scenario like this, where we have limited choices? Is it when we have honest but incompetent individual, or competent but dishonest individual? So I just feel I can rephrase the question this way. Jazakumullahu khair.
Yeah, noted.
Okay, Muhyiddin.
Assalamu
I think
alaikum.
Abdulsalam Ismail comes first, right?
Assalamu alaikum. Yes.
Walaikum assalam.
Jazakumullah khairan to Sheikh for the lecture. Please, I also want Sheikh to help us to also talk to those that are our investors. So most investors now attach some conditions that makes it very difficult for us to be fair in dealing with them. So and there are certain conditions like they give us conditions of not working outside their investments, not working with other investors outside their investment, and the percentage that they give, the sharing percentage at times are things that are not sufficient enough for us to have a good life ourselves here. So this sometimes cause us to compromise. Please also help us to encourage them to be flexible with us while giving condition. Then there is this condition that someone attached to an investment, a Mudoroba investment. So I want to ask if it's valid or not. So the condition is that I must not, after 2 years, if I decide to dissolve the partnership, that means the Rabbul Mal is giving that condition that, okay, if I as the Mudorib decide to give up on the business, that, okay, I want to dissolve this partnership business, then I don't have the option of doing that same business with any other person for the next 2 years. That means I must not do the same business for the next 2 years with any other person. So he said he's giving the condition because of the fear that if I made enough money from the business, then I will have to leave him and set up my own. So, which I think is not fair enough. I don't know, is that condition itself, is it acceptable in Sharia? So I would like Prof to answer it. Jazakumullah khairan.
You can go back to Muhyiddin, where he has asked his question.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Walaikum assalam.
Thank you to the organizers and the PROF for this exciting discussion this morning. My question is just around the 70% social give back to the society. Why 30% is just for the investment? I want Prof to please encourage us as a Muslim in putting most of our investment as collective investment, because most of the time the one-man business in the real sense of it is not going to affect the economy. So let's look into an industry, put up our effort in that, then we'll be able to come out in a reasonable way. So, Prof, please help us to shed light on how we can do a group business. I don't mean just 2 people now. I mean like 200 people coming together to do a business together. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi. We'll go by Abdul Salam Ismail.
You spoke already.
You spoke already. You spoke already.
Yeah, hello. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I think the moderator is muted. I don't know why. We also have one question from here. Let me read it directly to the Prof. He said, for a university teacher, some of our students at times gives gifts during festive period, e.g. Ramadan or at completion of their program. Will it be right to take such or any condition attached to this if allowed?
Okay, then Mr. Abdulhamid will repeat probably the last question we have.
Hello, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This is Abdulhamid Babalola. Thank you, Brother ABDULRAZZAQ, for the excellent lecture. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, you mentioned 2 qualities for one to be able to go into business with somebody, the element of trust and competence. So the first one is what I want to ask you: how can one establish trust in somebody that you have not dealt with? Is it just by referral or by observing his way of doing things. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to assess. Competency, you can assess by his resume, by people saying he has done this job before, by recommendation. But how do you establish trust in people that you, I mean, especially for those of us who have been away for ages? I mean, you want to go back to Nigeria and do business with somebody, how will you be able to really, with the kind of news we read every day, it's very difficult to really establish trust in people. So what are the qualities we should look for if we want to go into business with somebody in Nigeria? That's my question. Jazakumullahu khair for the effort you have put in the lecture. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi.
Salam. Is that the same brother Abdulhamid Babalola that I used to know?
You know me very well, sir. You know me very well. We have been here together for ages.
Okay, you are most welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Long time, long time. How is the family?
Alhamdulillah, we are doing well.
Alhamdulillah.
And yours?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen.
We need to see you more often in MSFN, sir, please.
Naam?
We need to see you more often in MSFN.
Exactly. May Allah reward you handsomely.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
So I think we have Dr. Jimo.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Prof, for this very wonderful lecture. My appreciation to the organizer too. It's a very good initiative. Prof, I want to ask about dealings with banks in Nigeria. Some of these banks, the commercial banks, they, I mean, have experience, they do business and borrow money. And as Muslims, we have the fear of dealing with conventional banks. Now we have Islamic banks and they have products which you can invest in. You put in your money and they give you some profits at the end of the month, at the end of the year, or based on the agreement that you enter in with them. So could you please shed some light on this? Is it halal? Is it advisable to go into it? And I mean, what are the Sharia point of view of dealing with this bank? I'm talking specifically now of Islamic banks like Jais, Lotus, and some other ones. Thank you very much, Prof.
You are welcome.
I think we'll take the last question from Ganiyu.
We have 11 already.
Yes, we'll take the last question from Mr. Ganiyu.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much for everything, the organizing and the lecture. I feel a form why registering for this lecture or for this seminar, and I want to ask a question based on my experience. Yeah. Is it what, or is it ideal or is it Islamic for you to say people that wants to work for you should make vow, or people you want to entrust in your business to make vow before they come in because of the trust issue in it? That's my question.
Okay. Moderator, now do we go back?
Yes. Yes.
So in case if I miss any of those questions, kindly remind me. But I've also try to. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. The first question was about someone in a salaried employment. Can he also work investing his own savings outside the salaried job or employment that he or she may have? The answer could be yes and could be no, depends on circumstances. Now you have a job that the measure, the standard that you agreed upon will give room for you to do extra works. That will be halal for you to do. For example, your work is to come to duty by 8 and close by 3. Outside that, you have no any other duty. There are no extra duties. You didn't agree on any extra duties. Then from 3 till 8, the next money is yours. You can use it to your benefit the way you feel. So that is okay. Except the only exception is if you know from your own nature that working extra hours will impact negatively on your performance on your job the next day, then it becomes haram for you to do. You see a lot of people today sleeping while on job, while in offices, because they have used the whole night to do extra job, to get extra pay. Then that one will impact negatively on their level of performance while they resume duty the next day. That one becomes haram. But if you know you can plan yourself, you can plan your time in such a way that you will still give 100% of what is expected of you, whether you are being monitored or not, then there's no harm in using your extra time for your extra benefits. Wallahu a'lam. The second question is closely related to this, that picking one, either to quit, you don't need to quit your job, as we have said now. It all depends on your circumstance, on your knowledge of yourself, that, oh, I can maintain amana. The same output, the same level of performance I will still give, even when I work for extra hours while at home or anywhere else. So it depends on you. If you know you cannot, then it is better for you in order not to hit haram and be confronted on the day of resurrection and be asked to pay from your salah, from your zakat, from your hajj. It's better you quit your salaried employment and face squarely your own investment, and may Allah put barakah in that. So it all depends on what you can do. Question number 3 is saying, if I have no option but to employ either a trustworthy person but is incompetent or incompetent one that is not trustworthy, which one should I go for? This is a very good question, because you know we have to face the reality. This is a reality that we all face from time to time. Somebody may be very good, very competent, but you doubt his trustworthiness. The other one is trustworthy, but you doubt his competence. Interestingly, years ago, hundreds of years ago, this question has been answered by a very famous scholar, Ibn Khaldun. Ibn Khaldun was a famous scholar who specialized mostly in issues of economics, history, and sociology from the Islamic perspective. Ibn Khaldun answered this question in his own way by saying, if you must choose between who is trustworthy but incompetent and one that is competent but not trustworthy, choose the competent that is not trustworthy. Why? If you are able to place, if you are able to put in place measures that will check his corrupt practices, so to say. That is the advice by Ibn Khaldun. And I think it's very good one. In some instances, you just have to go for the competence. You need competence, really. But you have to put in place measures that will make sure that this man cannot cheat you, cannot deceive you. And this is doable. And I believe this is what works in most of the developed nations, as different from the developing ones. You know, the issue of corruption is anywhere. Human beings are inherently corrupt. Let me put it that way. It's part of human nature to be corrupt. Why? Look at Al-Quran Al-Kareem. In Surah Al-Baqarah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed the angels that he was going to create a man on earth, what was their response? أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا. Are you going to create someone that will corrupt the earth? So it's inbuilt in us. The tendency to be corrupt is inbuilt. But it is measures. What makes a difference from a nation to another, from a community to another, from a job place to another, is the kind of measures put in place to checkmate every individual or group of people. In the developed world, they have institutions, very good institutions, working, functioning institutions that make it nearly impossible for you to get scot-free. If you are corrupt, you will think twice. But in developing nations, the opposite is the case. They have many precedents, many examples of those who were corrupt and they got away with it. So that is what is further encouraging corrupt practices. So to answer your question straightforward, according to Ibn Khaldun, go for a competent man, even if it's lacking in trustworthiness, but try to put in place measures that will make it nearly impossible for him either to steal, to deceive, to corrupt, or that will actually send a signal instantly to you when such a practice is happening and you put a stop at it. So that is the advice. Because if you choose someone that is only trustworthy in business, that doesn't help you. That is what Ibn Khaldun said. If it is trustworthy, you can employ him as an imam, you can employ him as a teacher, that's good. But you want him to develop your wealth. Trustworthiness alone does not develop a wealth. But competence can do, while you find ways of checkmating the corrupt practices that or tendencies that he or she may have. Question number 4 now. Talking about multi-skilling and the rest, then jack of all trades. No, it seems you've not understood me. When we say you multi-skill, we are not saying go and acquire half skills in any field. You have to be competent in all. That is what, if you are not skilled in it, it's not multi-skilling. That is not multi-skilling. What we are saying is not that you don't need to become a professor in a field, but at least you have the minimum, the average, that, he has something in addition to his primary area of specialization. So multi-skilling is always good, and even cross-skilling is also a very good one. It's helping a lot of people that I know in this world. I have one of my brothers-in-law, when he was at the university, he studied biochemistry. My brother-in-law, he studied biochemistry, but coming out to the labor market, he discovered that biochemistry will hardly hand him a good job. Yes, that is the truth. A lot of graduates of biochemistry are outside there. So he decided to go back to the university and studied accountants. Today, he's doing very well, fantastically well as an accountant. But in his accounting firm, sometimes they may need a scientist that will address a particular challenge for them. That will be an added value. They would look for such a person. So multi-skilling is a good thing all the way, is a good thing. Cross-skilling is a good thing. But what we are saying is that when you are multi-skilling, make sure you acquire good skill, not half-half, not half-baked. No, we are not talking of that. Number 5, that a medical doctor, after treating a patient, the patient voluntarily gives a gift to him. Yes, that happens. It happens. Some medical doctors have told me their own experiences. You see, you just have to be transparent. You must get the consent of either your employer, if it is possible in a private hospital, inform your employer, this is what happened. You must get his consent. If it is not possible in a government establishment, you have someone that you are reporting directly to, let him be aware. So, but to take it secretly is haram. To take it secretly without the knowledge, without the consent of your superior is haram. Question number 6, that some people will, some of our people in the diaspora will give us stringent conditions that they're very difficult to meet, like don't work, don't open a similar business after you leave me. Okay. You see, this is a legal problem. In law, this is what we call restrictive covenants. It's all over, not just among us Muslims. There are what we call restrictive covenants. And I must tell you that even in law, a lot of cases, courts have said restrictive covenants are illegal when they try to restrict you too much. But there are in other instances that they will see sense in what he's saying, that, oh, this man will just go and be a rival unnecessarily and jeopardize his business for no reason. You know, some people may be so greedy, they may want to harm their principal. So that is on the legal, from the legal angle. From the Sharia perspective, it's not totally different. Yes, you are a free man, you are not a slave. Nobody can tell you what to do and what you cannot do in terms of business. But there is a rule of Sharia, a principle of Sharia that says, La darara wa la dirar. Nothing will be acceptable if it is intended to harm either yourself or another person. So we will look, it has to be looked into on a case-to-case basis. We look at what you want to do. We look at your relationship with your former boss. Then a judgment will be passed whether you can do that or not based on this principle of Sharia. La darara wa la dirara. You don't harm him because he has favored you, and you pay him back in a way that will harm his business. Is not allowed. But if he doesn't, if there's no way that he will be harmed, ordinarily, being a rival in business is not something that you can take anyone to court for, that because he opened another shop beside me. Nobody will listen to you. So it depends on a case-to-case assessment of each circumstance that will determine that, especially from the Sharia perspective. And I think the same thing is being done even at the common law, from the common law perspective, like I told you. A lot of instances, precedents that we have, that court have said, no, you cannot do this. Restrictive covenants to this level are not allowed. Number 7, did I get this one? Okay, let me move to the next one. The next one says, I should encourage. Are we still together, Mr. Moderator?
Yes, we're still together.
The next question with me here says, I should encourage our people to always go for collective investment instead of individual investment. Yeah, well, you see, it depends. It depends. Yes, collective investment is good, but individual investment is also good. You see, one of the problems that I think this questioner or others may be having is that we are always aiming at something big to start with. Unless we have, like you mentioned, we have 200 people putting money together before we can do anything meaningful. No, it's not always like that. It's not always like that. This is part of areas that we need to reorientate ourselves. Small businesses are also very important to any economy, any economy. And let me see if I can quickly lay my hand on this, another statistic that I used sometimes ago in a presentation to buttress the point that we don't necessarily wait for until when something is very big before we can succeed. We can start at an individual level, 2 of you, 3 of you putting money together, not waiting until you are 200. No, you will, one day you may get to that, but I'm not advising that we always wait until when we have huge capital, very huge one, before we can do something meaningful. Okay, yeah, this is the statistics that I want to share with you. Small and medium enterprises in Nigeria, or sometimes they will call it MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises, the way that one that you are looking down on. Do you know that they contribute 96% of all businesses in Nigeria? That's a very valuable data. 96% of businesses in Nigeria are actually coming from small, medium enterprises. In 2017, these small and medium enterprises alone contributed 49.78% to our national GDP. That was a record in 2017. It was also established that in Nigeria, SMEs, small, medium enterprises, employ more than 86% of the total workforce. Imagine. All the government employees, whatever, they don't take up to 15%. It's still SMEs that is employing 86% of people working. You may say because this is Nigeria, it is not only in Nigeria. I went as far as comparing with what happens in the developed world. I discovered that in the United States of America, it's even greater. The record shows that more than 99% of the US firms and businesses are SMEs, small, medium enterprises. 99% of businesses in the US are in this category. Even in Malaysia, I also compared with Malaysia. In Malaysia, it is 98.5%. 98.5% of businesses in Malaysia are small and medium enterprises. So that is my answer to that one. Don't wait until when you are 200 before you can start something meaningful. Small, micro, small, medium enterprises are actually the engine room of any economy in the world. Question number 9, that as a lecturer, our students sometimes they will give lecturers gifts. Well, my candid advice is that don't take such gifts. I don't take them. I must be frank with you. Because we know especially if the question is coming from Nigeria, we know the kind of student that we have, unfortunately. Unlike students in other parts of the world that may just give you something for nothing. A student that gives you something is actually expecting something. And you just have to pay an attention to that one. So my candid advice is that as a lecturer, do not take gifts from your student. I remember I once told one of my master students, who is from the northern state, he's an adult, and he's not a minor that who says he's collecting from his parent. He's working, and he just bought me a recharge card. I told him, take this recharge card. I said, why? He said, you have been calling me when I was away. I said, it's part of my duty to supervise you. So if I don't see you, it doesn't take anything from me to call you. So don't worry. So I rejected it. He felt bad. He felt bad. Then I called him. I said, I will not collect from you, but I will explain for you why. I tutored him. I told him why I must not take it, because I don't want my integrity to be tainted in any way. And if I start collecting gift from you, no matter, you will expect a favor from me that may not be due. So he understood that. You know what he did? The student, after graduating, I supervised him at his master's level. I think he's from Bauchi, if I'm not mistaken. So about a year or thereabout after, he came with a bigger gift. I rejected recharge card of maybe 500 naira or thereabout. Then he came with something that is bigger, and he said, "Okay, you must take this. I'm no more your student." Then I had no option but to take it. I actually took that gift from him. Said, "I'm no more a student. So all what you told me then, I understood. But now you have no excuse. I want you to take it." Then I took it from him. So that is my advice. That's my advice. Number 10, question number 10 now. How do you know who is trustworthy? Competence you can know through CVs, but how do you know that someone is trustworthy? It's simple. People have ways of finding out now. I've discovered that one. A lot of people have been calling me, the prof, so we saw it so person CV that he wants to work with you, that he was at your center. You know, I have an Islamic center in Ilorin, that a lot of students, because of the proximity to the University of Ilorin, they grew up there around the mosque, around the center. So when they write their CV, they would put my name there, that, oh, I was once with Professor ALARO, I was. So without them knowing this, people would call me that so said in so year, he knew him, he was close to you, how would you recommend him? We want to engage him for so. And I've always been sincere to them. I've always been sincere. We must be sincere to them. If they ask you such a question, tell them exactly what you know. I think that one will work. Don't even wait for written recommendation. You know, written recommendation in this part of the world, people will not tell you the truth most times, because the same recommendation will be handed over to the candidate himself. So they don't want to look bad or evil to him. So they will write what pleases him. But when you as an employer to be, you place a call to the referee or anybody that knows about the candidate, be specific that I want to know about his trustworthiness. Oh, are we together?
Yes.
Okay, that you want to know about his trustworthiness, especially when you talk to some people that you can trust. They will tell you the truth. They will tell you the truth. Question number 11, dealing with banks in Nigeria. Yes, the brother said he knows that it's not good to deal with conventional banks. Yes, it's haram to deal with riba-based conventional banks. It's not allowed. It's a great sin for those who may not know. It's a very great one. But here in Nigeria now, alhamdulillah, we have alternatives. He mentioned some of them. We have Jais Bank, we have Taj Bank, which he did not mention. Recently, we have Lotus Bank. Those are full-fledged Islamic banks in Nigeria. We still have some Islamic banking window of a conventional bank. There is Sterling Bank window, there is SunTrust Bank window, and so on and so forth. So there are alternatives. I would strongly advise that you try to deal with any of these Sharia compliant alternatives, because that is the law of Almighty Allah. Now he's telling me to advise. You see, it's very simple. My advice is, if you are in doubt of any products being marketed by any of these banks, Jais, Taj, Lotus, SunTrust, Sterling, any of them, marketing, advertising, sorry, I beg your pardon, a product and claiming that it is Sharia compliant, tell them, ask them, it is your right. I need the Sharia compliance certificates issued and signed by your Sharia committee. Because by law, by regulation of banks in Nigeria, every Islamic bank must have a Sharia committee, otherwise known as advisory committee of experts. So they are qualified, competent, and trustworthy scholars that will not allow a product to be marketed except if it satisfies Sharia compliance. So ask them, I want a copy of what do you call it, Sharia compliance certificate. So that will give you rest of mind if you are in doubt. Lastly, that some people will ask their the applicants for job to make vow. To make vow that they will not cheat or what? I think that's the question, that they will be trustworthy. Well, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that I want you to, but you must know the hadith of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the rule of making a vow or swearing. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Man kana halifan falyahlif billahi aw liyasmut." You can only swear in the name of Almighty God, Almighty Allah. Don't tell them go and bring the iron Ogun in Yoruba land, or maybe something else in the north. I don't know. That will be anti-Islamic, anti-Islam. Don't do that. But okay, swear in the name of Almighty Allah that you will never deceive me, never cheat me. It's not bad. It's not bad. Allahu Ta'ala. So, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, thank you, Prof.
I have to take my leave now. I'm already behind schedule for the other program.
We sincerely apologize for keeping you longer than you planned. I want to thank you for taking that time out of your busy schedule to be with us and sharing such insightful wisdom from your experiences. We sincerely appreciate. I think the Prof can take his leave, and then we'll try to wrap up the program.
To you all.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So, Dr. Said, we are working on a limited time, so we'll just quickly come back to you then before we try to wrap up the program, as I think it's already time for Salah over here.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Moderator, and it was a good idea to postpone my panel session so that Prof can take his leave. Prof actually is a lot behind schedule. So coming back to my own contribution, thank you so much for the wonderful session, for the organizers, and we thank our Prof in absentia for the wonderful material which he delivered to the community. May Allah preserve Sheikh for us, and may Allah make the materials delivered beneficial to us. Now, quickly, I want to share my experience because I was called by the organizers to share my experience with regard to investing in Nigeria. Okay, so first of all, I had this particular experience. I have many, by the way. I have so many business experiences in the country, especially those that end up unfavorable. But I'm choosing this specifically for a very good reason. This is about investment in agricultural production. And by the way, we needed a consultant to lead the project. And we chose one consultant who happens to be a Muslim brother, and he appears from all perspectives to be a practicing and someone we feel is Islamic enough, okay? Or was Islamic enough. So now we gave him the consultancy job. And by the way, we had information about his previous services somewhere else. He has done the same thing somewhere else with very good result. And we believe that he can always repeat that good result for our side as well. So we engaged him as a leading consultant, and we gave him all he needed. We made a very small agreement with him, very small and humble agreement, and he started to work. But prior to his working, we saw a little suspicious things about him. We're not so, it appears like there are some things which are not acceptable, which we saw in him. And so we were worried whether this person is really reliable or he was not reliable. So we tried to make some findings just to justify our engagement with him, okay? So while trying to make finding about his personality, so we got someone he has worked with, and the person also praised him that the guy is very, very good. He knows his job. Now I asked the person, yes, I know he knows his job, and you confirmed that he knows his job, but I want to know about his personality, his attitude, his honesty and things like that. And he told me that unfortunately he has not been with him for too long, so he cannot talk much about his personality. He can only talk about his competence as such. So unfortunately, we couldn't get any tangible opinion about him with regard to his personality based on our doubt about him. But now this is agricultural production. It has a timeline. If we were too late to start, then we are already failed from the beginning. Because of the rush to start before the season will set out, we just say, well, let's trust in God or trust in Allah and let's proceed. We proceeded, and it turned out that maybe seeing that we were outside the country, it chose to fleece us, unfortunately. So the brother continued to extort us, and because he was really determined to extort, so he did not deliver a good quality job, because he has to use the job delivery as a means of extortion, so that he would delay the delivery of any item, so that it will use that to extort. In the end, nothing good came from this brother, and we realized that it will wreak more havoc on us. So we sent him packing from the project. He already started, we sent him packing, and we tried to find a substitute to run the project. But unfortunately, because we never prepared for having a substitute, so this project failed. It failed fantastically well. And the consequence was that we lost several millions of naira in this project. In the end, whatever he was trying to extort from us is only a fraction of what we lost. You see? So this is just relating a very negative experience from a Muslim brother who actually was confirmed to be competent in what he does. But unfortunately, he entered with his competence record to extort and to cheat us, especially that he knew that we were out of the country. So you see, I related this experience just to draw some lessons. And the lessons I'm about to relate here is not just lesson from only this project alone. I have a lot of them, and I can see that these lessons are consistent. And I want to basically try to share with us some of the things that I feel would be beneficial. First of all, always be prepared for surprises. So when you want to run business with somebody, whether even if you are in Nigeria, if you are based in Nigeria, okay, you cannot be everywhere. You could be based in Lagos, but the better location for the business is Kaduna. Or you are based in Kaduna, but Ibadan is the best place to run the business. Okay, so somehow you still need to take these lessons into consideration if you want to run business with anybody. Okay, Prof has spoken about the need for competence and trustworthiness, all of that. But somehow I just realized that too much focus is placed on others without really examining ourselves. Okay, we've placed focus of competence and trustworthiness on others without really looking into our own side. This is something very interesting, which I noticed. So number one, always be prepared for surprises. No matter how good the whole thing looks like at the beginning, always be ready that surprises could happen. What do I mean by surprises? Always be prepared for unfavorable outcome. For that reason, you need to have a very detailed plan. What if? What if this happens? What will be done? What if this happens? What are you going to do? So always be prepared, number one. Number two, you need to research thoroughly about the person you want to deal with, okay? Try to take your time to research thoroughly, okay? Now, the first point that you should be prepared for surprises and have a very good plan for what to do if some negative things happen. And the second point of researching about the person, these 2 points need some time, am I right? They need time. And my advice is that, or let me say, if you don't have enough time to do these two aspects, you have 2 choices. 2 choices are with you. Number one, be optimistic and proceed. Well, inshallah, inshallah khair, it will be fine. Let me proceed. You have this choice. Number 2, you quit. Quitting is your second choice. And if I have a chance to ask you the question, what would you do if you find out that you don't have enough time to do all of these background jobs? Would you proceed and say, inshallah, it will be fine? Or you would quit? Well, my advice is that you quit. You don't proceed, okay? You quit until you are able to do all of this. And the third point I want to mention now is that now to your own side, your own personal side, forget about the others, forget about employees or partners. What about you? Are you competent yourself? I just realized that we don't really focus our own side as well. You are the initiator of a business idea and you are looking for partners or employees. But are you competent as a business manager yourself? Most of the time, the incompetence or dishonesty of our employees or our partners is actually complementary to our personal incompetence as business managers or as investors. In other words, you must ensure that you are also a competent investor or a competent business manager. And that will help us. Prof has mentioned the opinion of Ibn Khaldun, that you can take a competent person, but he's not honest. Therefore, you place some checks and balances. Do you know how to institute these checks and balances? You yourself, you are incompetent. unfortunately. So the reality from my experience is that as a business manager or as an investor, you must do your assignment properly and ensure to be competent yourself before you start looking for competence or honesty, as the case may be, in others. So my final submission will come as follows. My point number one is to be prepared for surprises. Point number two, have detailed knowledge about your potential partners or employees. Point number three, ensure that you are also competent yourself. Now the summary is, if you don't have all of these three things in place, what do? You have two choices. Choice number one is to proceed and just say, inshallah, it will be fine, okay? And choice number two, again, is to quit. All right, so now what do? Well, I will advise you can take any of the two choices. But if you choose to proceed, okay, only proceed with a small investment. And that is provided that that small investment is sufficient, because there are some businesses or some activities in which there is a small threshold, or sorry, the minimum threshold. If the threshold is such that it is big for you, then you have to take the second choice, which is to quit. And in this particular activity cannot run unless you have 2 million naira in place. And that happens to be big for you, then quit. But if it's a small thing for you, then you can test run and see how it goes. It may be fine, okay? On the other hand, you have the choice to quit, and this is the best thing for you. So I would like to conclude on this note that the competence we are talking about and the honesty we are talking about has to be complementary from my side as an investor or employer, and at the same time on the side of the employee or partners. Jazakumullah khairan for giving me the chance to make this contribution. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Said, for your input and a very insightful experience sharing with our members. At this junction, I think I would like to call on Dr. Adam to, will I give a closing remark? And kindly also remember that there is a poll running on the screen. Do kindly attend to the poll while Dr. Adam gives his closing remark. Dr. Adam?
Yeah, I'm not sure Dr. Adam is available. Perhaps he has gone for prayer.
I suppose.
So, I mean,
Dr. Hakim, I think you can go ahead with that.
Okay, Jazakumullah khairan. We appreciate everybody for this, for their time, their patience, and their attendance in the program. Jazakumullah khairan, and we probably look forward that we'll be able to see you in our subsequent programs. Inshallah, we have a couple of programs that will be rolled out soon. We wish to have your attendance and your time, and possibly your beautiful suggestions too will be welcome. Jazakumullah khairan.
So once again, thank you very much for taking our time out of your busy schedules to be with us here today. And from me to you, I say assalamu alaikum, and we'll see you soon in our next program. Assalamu alaikum.
We would also like to inform you that the recorded video will be available on our YouTube page, inshallah, by the end of the day. I think the link to the YouTube page is on the chat box, and we have the recorded video of our previous events also there, and this also will be available there, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan to everyone.
Thank you so much. Jazakumullah.
for